navigate with the language we have. Language is not a thing in the world, it is the world. Forming, inventing, fabricating meaning from the seemingly distant or the seemingly incongruous. That's when theory gets exciting. It's a complex topic, but it's also very simple. Making it intuitive, making it relevant, making it comprehensible, making it digestible.
Could we start by you just defining yourself on your own terms?
Hi, my name is Margherita. I'm currently Assistant Curator at the Design Museum, curator and researcher, mostly interested in ecological debate. I have a background in history of art and curatorial studies, mostly been working in the art world and design.
We're talking kind of after my residency Design Museum ended and your show, which you co-curated with Rebecca, Lewin and Justin McGuirk, ended, More Than Human. And that exhibition started with this quote, "We are not the only kind of we."
Yes.
By Eduardo Cohen?
Yes,
Cohen?
exactly.
Cohen.
From his How Forests Think.
And I wanted to know on your terms how you define this term, which we both operate within, but which is still like not a well-known concept, More Than Human.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's important to say that we borrowed this term from David Abram, who coined this term a few decades ago to kind of describe and put a name to everything that is not human, everything in the world that exists beyond us, whether that's other species, ecosystems, landscapes. And it's, well, he coined this term in his famous book from the 90s called The Spell of the Sensuous, I believe. Which I think kind of aligned with what I'd say in cultural studies we term the sensuous turn, or the sensory turn in museology and kind of the cultural sphere. And I think that quote was really important to us because it signals both, of course, that we are not the only species on this planet, but also that we're not the only species with a collective sense of self. So that repositions consciousness, intelligence, and agency beyond, our human bodies.
I also think about the we, I find really interesting because it wasn't anywhere that you were putting on this exhibition. The Design Museum is, one of the big cultural institutions in London, if not the world. And so you're curating for general publics. You're curating not just for researchers or scholars or people who might have a background in, like what you say, the sensorial turn or philosophy more generally, but for someone age 5 or younger. I don't know if there's an age. And how, as a curator, how you communicate complex issues to a wide audience. Because I do think that there is a general failure to do so within broader environmentalism.
Yes, totally. And I think there is a lot of thinking that we did to kind of position this argument within design and the relevance of this discipline within this kind of discourse. The simple answer is it's a complex topic, but it's also a very simple one, like most things. And of course the challenge was making it simple, not simplistic. And that involved kind of very lengthy curatorial conversations, disentangling the kind of threads that we wanted to pull out. And these essentially manifested in the 3 sections of the exhibition. The first of which was called Being Landscape, which made the, again, deceivingly simple point that we are not separate from it, that we depend on it and we must just relearn and see anew the ways in which we depend on it. So we did that through, by borrowing important works by visual artists that really made this statement clear and almost intuitive. There's a kind of immediacy to visual art that I think helped also convey some of these quite difficult concepts. For instance, we borrowed this amazing triptych by the Brazilian artist Solange Pessoa from the Dreamers series, and it essentially depicted 3 quasi-abstract figures. You couldn't quite tell if they were animal, vegetal, human-like, but purposefully kind of caught mid-metamorphosis almost. And this was the first work you encountered when going into the exhibition, and it was a really striking kind of visual assertion. So that was one way. The other way was by platforming very practical examples in which design and architecture can cater to the needs of other species and ecosystems. We showcased very practical examples and instances, both across cultures, but also just across disciplines, whether through architecture, product design, urban design as well, by which practitioners can cater not just to the needs of humans, but also to other species, whether that it means building more pollinator-friendly environments, bird-friendly environments, pigeon-friendly environments, that just acknowledges the needs of the billions of species that we share this space with. So I think, very long-winded answer to say, making it intuitive, making it relevant, making it comprehensible, making it digestible. We also commissioned a design to make a beautiful family trail, actually, to a former design researcher in residence, Isabelle Lea.
Oh, cool.
So there was a lovely circularity there. A lovely trail that kind of selected some works from the exhibition and asked even like children to engage with them. For instance, there was a work by British artist Marcus Coates called Nature Calendar, which is essentially a compilation of events taking place in nature throughout the year at any given day.
I really love that piece. Can you remember what your birthday had?
It was, I think it was about seals.
Oh, I'm jealous.
It was great.
Mine was like, the oak trees have now lost all their leaves, and I was like, oh, it's so sad. But it kind of had
humbling,
these, it had these different things, and his kind of point was like, people used to know these rhythms, and now we have to remind you of them.
Exactly. It was just so amazing to see. I remember being in the first room of the exhibition and just seeing people walking and just the amazement, and some people were really moved. And I think it just speaks to all ages, and I think that's a good marker of it.
Yeah, and I also think there's something about kind of like how, as an individual, you buy into something, like the calendar being this actually quite abstract idea.
Recognizable, though.
Yeah.
Yes,
and
you need recognizable signs in order to digest concepts.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like even like in preparing for today's walk, like we're in Regent's Park, and I didn't think I'd fully clocked how dead the leaves would be. And it's like, I probably should know this, but we're so out of sync with these different like rules and stuff. Rules, rhythms now.
Cycles, yes.
Yeah, I think like in the essay that Daisy Hilliard wrote for the book, it talks about to become a landscape. I can't remember the exact title now, but she talks about how actually it's natural that we will return to the earth. And she talks about like these like peat bog people that are excavated every now and then, whose bodies have been preserved in the peat, and how that's the weird thing. It's actually much more normal for us to return to the environment than it is to stand out. And I kind of think that like with More Than Human, there's almost an assertion of an obvious fact, and this is where like curatorial and like knowledge practices really interest me. I think a lot of time we spend like having to unlearn things which you know as kids.
Absolutely.
Like you know as kids that like you're part of something broader, and then like maybe the project of modernity is like isolating ourselves.
Yes, and also you just made me think of something, which is the ambiguity and the fascination of common sense. Like what is what is common sense? What have we inherited?
Yeah.
What do we just go by with as givens?
Yeah.
And you know, common sense, I think, was also a concept of the Enlightenment. You know, sensus communis, I think Kant wrote about. And
who also kind of, I guess Immanuel Kant is about sort of isolating yourself from the world at large, the interior life.
Yeah, just I guess taking some axioms as truths, basically.
Yeah.
But basically, the concept was common sense is where everyone assents, but the word in German for assent, I think, is Stimme or something. I'm not going to pronounce this well. But, and that can mean both voice and vote. So in a way, it's like your voice participates in this in the commons essentially, but you're also taking a vote in it. So I think the urgency today is reassessing that. What are we voting in? Whose voice is part of, this pool of knowledge?
I think about talking about the kind of majesty with which Francis Bacon, etc., talk about conquering nature, like the idea of nature being something that can be controlled. And then if you watch videos of infrastructure being built in the 50s, it's always about man's triumph over nature. And so more than human, I think, in an artistic sense, you can kind of get behind creatively engaging with nature, but design has been for so long anti-nature or about control, whether it's the dikes in the Netherlands, putting back the water, or bridges going over valleys. These are all anti-nature or in opposition to nature.
Well, it was just inanimate, really.
Yeah.
And a resource to be exploited. And yes, I think to go back to your first question on how to kind of mediate or position these concepts to the general public, it also helped to put a temporal framework to these discussions, and of course understanding design as a discipline that has emerged in the last 150 years to 100 years, especially in an Anglophone context, I think, after the Industrial Revolution, but just general West.
And kind of seeing it as a point of crisis or point of turn?
Yes,
essentially.
well, one where resources became the kind of fuel, or natural resources became fuel for human endeavors.
Yeah.
And the human project that, of course, disregarded all other forms of life.
Like I said, as someone who works broadly in this idea of more than human, I think tone is really important.
Yes.
In the Shifting Perspectives chapter of the book, which accompanies the show,
yes,
you write about how play is a serious form of inquiry. Could you talk a little bit more about that? I think playfulness is a discredited methodology, and it's something that, at least in my personal view, I quite like to reassert.
Yes. Playfulness, joy were big parts in this exhibition, and relearning, or as you say, unlearning some forms of knowledge that we just inherited can be quite daunting, can be quite, as you say, foreign to some. So artists have long made works with kind of joy and enjoyment in mind. Among these, the Japanese artist Shimabuku, who made this beautiful, has long made works for octopuses in mind.
So he has these I don't know if I've told you this, when I saw the promotional material for the show, it's his work. It's this big octopus playing a marble kind of shape. I expected when I went into the show some massive octopus. I was like, show me the octopus. And it took me ages before I realized actually what that work was about, which is, no, not sculpture, it's playing with real octopi.
Yes.
Octopi? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I guess it was perceived as large because it basically, for whoever hasn't seen the exhibition, it was the main kind of campaign and marketing image in posters across London. But so he made glass balls for octopuses to play with, because he noticed how they enjoy picking up objects and kind of seashells from the floor, and this radical act essentially of gifting something to another species, an act of radical generosity, and crucially one that acknowledges more than human enjoyment and kind of pleasure. So to your question, play is a method of inquiry. It's tone as well. It's a medium as well. We were also showing the trailer for a video game by artist David O'Reilly of his game called Everything, in which players can seemingly take an infinite number of objects, whether that's an atom or a ladybird or a mountain or a planet. And this constant shifting, indeed, perspective, I think needs to be done with some kind of playfulness in mind. Of course, it's an impossible act. We should obviously make the point that one can never really transcend their own human-bound form, but I think there's such productivity and there's so much to be learned in that frontier, and that gap between ourselves and others, and that very margin in which things can be discussed, limits be met, is, for me, a starting point. That was what I wanted to write about, essentially. It's not the end point, it's the starting point.
Yeah, I even think about that, like the way you spoke about like play as productive there, really interesting, because those are kind of antonyms or antitheses and opposites of each other. Like often, I don't know, I'm kind of, as we're walking around, we're in like a very kind of picturesque element of the park, and like the picturesque is a very playful style of gardening, but it's also a very productive style. Like it's producing rich ecosystems through pretending to be natural.
Yes.
I think the need to shift perspectives across design is really comes across in the show and in what you're describing.
There's also something to be said about young, well, as in like children, and the process of learning and play as a childish act.
Yeah.
But of course, if we are to relearn or rewire knowledge, we must start with children and the way education is set up.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring back to life the great Enzo, who I had the honor of working on a show about at the Design Museum last year. Enzo curated by Hans Recobers with Francesca Giacomelli, which was first on show at Triennale Milano, and then we kind of adapted for London. And
Enzo is this industrial designer who I would describe as very playful.
Well, I mean, post-war Italian designer, cannot really fit in any comfortable category. He was a thinker, rather, first and foremost. A thinker, a designer, a teacher, a polymath, really.
Yeah.
And he famously made children's games, one of which is this amazing 16 animals kind of wooden puzzle, cut in one continuous line from a single block of wood. It's just pure genius.
So it's kind of like tessellating. Like
exactly. And essentially it is universal, it's for all ages, really, but it doesn't really expire. He was a staunch defender of anti-consumerist culture and really against the kind of rampant economic boom of the time. And so he made games that could last for entire lifetimes and for generations. So, but he famously said children should be given Nobel Prizes for the kind of pace at which they learn through trial and error. Yeah. And he always really stood by that. Yeah,
I was looking at, for a separate thing, kind of these graphs of skills that children develop. And I was kind of thinking about ages 4 and above, kind of school age. But I was noticing in this graph that actually the exponential rises between, say, 2 to 4.
Yes.
Like so much learning is being done in these very early years. And then it sort of made me feel a bit sad, because then it's like, I'm in my 20s, am I not learning anymore? Or I'm never going to learn as much as I did in those early moments.
Yes, I think the openness to that is, and learning new things is what keeps culture and discourse alive, honestly.
I like that. I wanted to ask you about being interrupted by some parakeets. I'm not sure where they are.
That's not an interruption. They're partaking in this conversation.
I like walking in this time of year because I like, you can actually see the animals and the birds.
Yes.
Like the thing for particular around here, I can't see any now, but all the nests.
There's a very diffuse light.
Diffuse light as well, yeah, it's for low light and for trees being naked. And you can start to also see the nests. Which
There's also like such a beautiful line of light horizontally in the sky. It looks like...
That's true.
Well, I'm not going to say it, but I need to say it now. It looks like a Rothko.
It looks like a Rothko. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, there you go. You can see it. I can see a nest there. I love seeing, talking back about kind of the octopi and the play. I don't know if you remember, was it the 2010 World Cup where an octopus predicted? Do you remember
Oh my God, yes.
It was so good.
I was obsessed.
Yeah, I can't remember his name now.
I used to look up updates. Well, not because I didn't have but on TV.
I knew nothing about football, but I was really into this guy who,
It was...
I'm literally walking over to a tree because I can see this kind of cluster of leaves here. And I was thinking yesterday, how lovely it is that all the leaves are falling, but actually they keep clumped in these kind of nest structures, and they're quite preservationist.
Not quite ready to let go.
Not quite ready to let go. And I think kind of the agency of animals to have discretionary design is really interesting. Like with the Shimabuku.
Yes.
With Shimabuku's work, like because the piece was sort of like, what is an octopus's favorite color?
Yes.
I think
And they do.
They do?
Yes.
So what is their favorite color?
Oh, well, I mean, that depends.
Oh,
on
it depends on. So yeah, but see, even then, like, I think like that's the thing about the term "we." Like, I'm kind of acting as if octopi in general would have like one color,
One
but like
collective brain,
no,
yes.
yeah, they obviously have their own taste.
Yes.
And I think that kind of ability for individual agency really interests me in
Yes.
more than human. Like, it's not what do oak trees think or what does the river think, but actually everything can have its own personal agency. I do just really love that quote, but the we is an encompassing collective. Like there are all varieties, yeah.
Yes.
And actually kind of the real turn in more than human, and a lot of parakeets again, hello. The real acknowledgement of multi-species agency is that they can contain complexities or multitudes themselves.
Yes.
And other trees can contain multitudes themselves. They are able to not just be kind of innocent victims, they can be, yeah, quite annoying as well.
One of the most fascinating facts I read up was about crows and ravens, which of course are highly intelligent creatures, and they have funeral rituals.
Yeah.
It's just astounding.
Do you know the story about there's a guy who was doing research on crows and he wore a mask in order to... I think he wore a mask as either part of a test or to anonymize himself because he knew crows recognize faces. And he goes back with the mask, or he goes back to the same spot like 15 years later, and the crows are really mad at him because I think his test was, maybe it angered them or it was somewhat cruel. The average lifespan of a crow is like less than 15 years. I might be getting the exact numbers wrong, but the point is he returned when technically speaking all of those crows should have been deceased.
Yeah.
So they generationally hated
Yes.
him, which I just...
It's incredible.
Yeah. So be sweet to your crows. Where are we crossing? Are we crossing over the lake? I don't know this park very well, but it's really beautiful to walk around.
It is. It's very human-made, though.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's one of the royal parks, right? It's very like, yeah. I think as winter approaches, you start to see like the infrastructure that underpins the myth. Like when you're in full summer, everything is just verdant and green. But when you get to this time of year, you start to see like the embankments being quite like the concrete exposing, the planting starts looking suspicious, and you can start to see that human artificiality of it.
We construct our sense of wild.
But it's also like I noticed in the Design Museum garden the other day, which way should we go this way?
Yeah.
In the Design Museum garden the other day, one of the, a couple of the bricks that are designed for pollinators to live in, that was in the More Than Human show?
Yes.
Do you know the ones I'm on about? They were in the garden.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, I think I heard this. I was really happy to know about this. I mean, it's a great way to reuse exhibition materials too, but...
Yeah, that's a good point, like disseminating into...
Yes.
And actually having some functionality.
Exactly. I mean, it's real function... Well, intended functionality rather of the architects. Yeah, I mean, it was a great project. It's called the Alusta Pavilion by a Finnish duo called Suomi Koivisto. And it was first realised in Finland, but the project has very much kind of existed elsewhere, obviously in London, but abroad as well. And it essentially comprises of kind of commercially available bricks, kind of turned around, and basically their holes and pores exposed.
So like what are called the frogs in traditional bricks, like the top bit, I think they're called frogs, for like mortar to get in.
Exactly.
So you just flip it around.
Exactly.
So they are literally as normal bricks?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. I thought they were like fancy stuff.
No, but
I love that.
It's repurposed.
Yeah.
To kind of benefit. It's great habitats for pollinators.
I love that idea. I don't know if you saw in COVID with the COVID testing kits. You know, you had these little pipettes to like get the liquid. There was a campaign afterwards for donating these to hedgehog conservation, protecting people, because they're perfect for feeding baby hedgehogs. And like the way, in the same way that we have benefited from animal actions such as pollination, like ultimately we benefit from the acts of pollinators literally creating nature. So too these human designs can end up being repurposed, and at times, mostly not, but at times helping the animals. I wanted to slightly move broader or more abstract and talk about that divide between art and design and curation, or maybe art and design more generally.
Well, I guess we navigate with the language we have, right? Language is not a thing in the world, it is the world, and it makes up what we think, and vice versa. So I guess we inherit a creative industry that functions with these disciplines. And
so you mean kind of like the hierarchy of the arts, like
well, not
fine art,
necessarily,
architecture?
well, I mean, a bit of that. I think we're moving past it slightly. There's an increasing hybridity, of course, in exhibition making, curation, criticism. There is, I mean, everyone will notice there's increasing kind of porosity and kind of exchange. You know, even fairs, I think, make less of a distinction now. Exhibitions, criticism. Of course, though, the main distinction, or rather the kind of historical distinction, was, I would say, in Western modernity, placed kind of functionality as the main characteristic of applied arts, shall we say.
So applied arts would be what we may now call design.
Yeah, well, different forms of design.
Yeah.
But of course, this was never always the case. You know, there was no such a distinction between a work of art and architecture in the Renaissance, or these categories have always been rethought in the history of art and architecture, and I guess it helps us to navigate the creative industry, but I think all great creative minds have always operated across all of them, because they're all subsets. They can all be subsets of the same language, right? It's just how adept you are at those different subsets.
Do you think that within the, let's say, the remit of the Design Museum, it's easier to make a show about more than human than it would be in, say, a fine art context?
Did you say easy?
Easier, yeah.
I'm not sure it's easier.
More accepting, maybe.
Because I think in institutional settings, you always need to make a case for why that content needs to be exhibited there, which is a very useful exercise in kind of sharpening your idea.
Could you talk more about that? Sharpening your idea of an institutional setting?
Yes, I guess you have to demonstrate and kind of corroborate why your idea and why that content has relevance in that setting, what audiences will engage with that, what kind of histories and messages and kind of identities of the museum are you working with, and how will those enhance or kind of set parameters rather. You know, you always have to work with set parameters that can be really productive.
So it's kind of that tension, either going with or pushing against. It's still like valuable to have that.
I think it's fundamental and it's necessary. You know, like you can be either an independent curator or an institutional curator, and that differs in the way you work. But I think fundamentally, whatever exhibition you put on, you have to work with a setting, an identity, a place, and I think most curatorial practice today responds to that, wherever you are. And you know, there's freedom because there are limitations. You know, there's, I guess you can think of creative freedom because you can think of the opposite.
Yeah.
So I think it's necessary.
Yeah. I ask about this kind of art versus design setting because, and I know that when I'm talking about more than human, I'm often thinking about animals specifically. Obviously, more than human extends beyond animals to fungi and microbes and all good stuff. But I wonder whether it's easier to situate more than human actors as designers than as artists. Within the kind of language we use for art versus design, where design has this kind of idea of functionality, whereas art is for pure joy. And I recently came across this cockatoo in Australia. I say come across, I watched a YouTube video. This cockatoo fashions little drumsticks out of wood, and then they will drum to attract their mate. Now, like if you take like a Darwinian lens to that, like obviously there's a functionality, but they're the only bird in the world that drums. They're the only, you know, and so to me, I'm
That's
like,
amazing.
but I wonder whether to assert it as being pure artistic creation is another thing. I'm thinking also of, is it dolphins that wear fish as their hats. Have you seen this?
Oh my God.
And it's like, that is pure artistic creation.
Yes.
And
I think you need both,
Yeah.
right? And to come back to your question, I think it was not necessarily easier, but it was definitely productive
Yeah.
and useful to place it in a design context,
Yeah.
because that kind of lens allows you to, I think, posit ways forward and argue where practitioners and makers are headed. And
that's
I
a good
think,
point, yeah.
and shaping that narrative and direction, or rather just like capturing it, I think helps to make a very constructive argument in a very confusing time, shall we say.
Yeah, I think one of the nicest things curatorially, again in the shifting perspectives section, where there were nests shown alongside works by artists.
Yes.
So you had artists and designers, and then artists and designers, brackets, birds.
Yes,
or brackets,
exactly. Insects
wasps
and
as well.
birds, yes.
Yeah.
All sorts. Ants
Yeah.
making nests from mud, kind of to protect from the monsoon season. It's just incredible design and architectural decisions.
Decisions. I think that's like a
Oh,
nice
yes.
phrase. Like you're given surroundings and you respond. You make like the idea of, like, going back to philosophy, like the idea of what is free will. One of the things is, like, within kind of equal conditions, you can make one choice over the other rather than out of necessity. So there are two equal options. The agency of free will is to make a decision between the two without any prejudice. And I think I see that a lot in the creative expression of a more than human world. There's a question that we ask everyone on this series, which is, what is your anastrophe? And we define anastrophe as if a catastrophe are things falling apart and an anastrophe are things coming together. It's a moment of change or reconsideration. And I'm curious for you, what is, in your practice thus far, in your career, what has been your anastrophe? Or is it yet to come?
Yes.
In which case I'll come back and
No.
record later.
I love this. Also, I love the concept of anastrophe. I'm a big fan of, like, language as more than just a thing. It's a kind of living beast. And the value of syntax and punctuation and, like, reversing that and rethinking that. And sorry, I'm saying really abstract things. But
No, I think that's very clear to me. I think the idea of...
yeah. This is quite intimate, but it was really life-changing, I think, for me. So but I'm going to try and keep it short. I visited the 2017 Venice Biennale, I think, and saw the Dutch Pavilion by this artist called Herman de Vries, called To Be Always To Be. And it was just the simplest showcasing of natural elements that he found in the Venice Lagoon, whether that be stones, pieces of wood, leaves, displayed in a very taxonomical way. So there was a tension there that I was quite obsessed by, kind of scientific rigor vis-a-vis the force of life in it, or that rather that was controlling. And I then tried to get in touch, interview, and he's an ascetic, a kind of recluse.
Okay.
But a curator responded to me and asked me if I was a relative of someone he knew with my same surname who lived in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, many decades ago. And I did not know about the existence of this man. And it turned out we were actually related, and he was a curator at the Stedelijk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What was the relation? Like uncle or?
No, really
like
distant cousins.
strange
Yeah. Anyways, he emigrated Italy to go to the Netherlands and live there. And he also apparently came to art by visiting the Dutch Pavilion by Rietville. So
All right, this sounds a bit Hollywood now. No, it's
just
brilliant.
so good they have to tell it to you. Yeah.
Wow.
So that really shifted my sense of time. I was like, okay, time is nothing. We are all living a life in a life, many lives. I am just reversing.
So you saw yourself as part of a kind of rhythm.
I think just like space and time collapsed for a second. You know, when life pinches you and something clicked for sure. And it as anastrophes does, I guess, they rejigged the order and structure of things.
I mean, I think that really is an anastrophe because you came back to, like, you know, through familial ties.
Yes.
You came back together.
And I never met this man, but he is in all likelihood the coolest member of my family.
Oh yeah?
And I don't know, maybe we
So
did meet
far.
in another life.
You might be, you know. Wow. Do you know what kind of stuff he did at Stedelijk?
He was, well, mostly furniture at the time, you know. In the post-war decades, I guess.
I wonder then whether he touched...
There were neater categories.
Yeah, but you were talking about Enzo Mari earlier.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
That is a real anastrophe. I like that a lot. But also, you know, and then obviously you yourself come from Italy and then now working abroad as well.
Coincidences are not coincidences. It's very interesting.
I think I also kind of bring it back to curation. That must be a real joy as well, that you think that something's been a deliberate choice and it'll end up being a pure coincidence. You know, something will align, two things look the same and they didn't think about it before. I think the pattern-seeking behavior of consciousness is so beautiful.
Yes, but you know, I am a real believer in the power of association.
Power of association.
And whether that's just because I love psychotherapy and psychoanalysis, I don't know, but you know, whether the curatorial figure is a mediator, is an associative mind as much as a kind of investigative one, you know, you operate both kind of longitudinally and laterally, shall we say, but by going laterally you connect things, whether visually, spatially, conceptually, that could be disparate, but that could rather just like really distant, but that actually share something. And you know, we're creatures that look for meaning. I think we all are, but curators, I guess, especially. And you produce that meaning by association. So I think untangling the things that seem distant but are actually sharing something is a very productive act. And, you know, I think Deleuze said this of philosophy, but you could apply the same. It's the production of meaning, production of new knowledge, that
kind of putting things next to each other isn't the sum of its parts, but it's actually greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, just like forming, inventing, fabricating meaning from the seemingly, maybe not meaningless, but the seemingly distant or the seemingly incongruous. That's when theory gets exciting, is when it's not theory, it's practice. You know, why so many people I think feel alien to theory and like, I don't know, philosophical discourse, it's when it's divorced from any kind of real life, real practice, but actually the most thrilling thing is when you do something and in doing it you are thinking it, or rather you are making theory by doing it. So there's no such a division
between practice and theory. I think we're kind of reaching the end. Where are we?
I love it. I think we're lost. I'm not sure where I am.
Yeah, okay, I think I am a little bit lost.
But this is the maze we got into.
Oh, I had an idea.
Conceptually.
Yeah, I have an idea of doing a series where it is an actual maze, you know, like Versailles.
Okay, don't get
labyrinths.
me started because I am obsessed by labyrinths.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Should
Talk?
I?
Yeah.
I think we tapped into all of my purist obsessions.
Okay.
So, I mean, I wrote a whole essay on the kind of history, meaning, and I guess visual power of labyrinths, you know, from the most ancient of times, obviously kind of mythological meaning and the kind of power it has today, and, you know, I guess, archaic images that no matter how, they kind of traverse time, you know?
Tell me, I mean, I kind of got into walking through labyrinths as well. And I might be wrong, it's been a while, but the idea that a lot of churches would have a labyrinth in their basement.
Oh, yeah.
So for those who couldn't go on pilgrimage, because pilgrimage was such a large part of medieval Christian faith.
Well, of course, it's the space of the mind.
Yeah, and so you would walk the labyrinth in order to walk.
Yes, to reach the center, yes, of course. It's, I mean, it's basically I was seeing it as a motif, as a kind of image also in contemporary art, and trying to make a case for how the image of the labyrinth has evolved. Whether through ancient cultures, but also in more like modern and contemporary societies.
I'd say it's kind of a derogatory term now, labyrinth. Like labyrinth, people call something labyrinthine if it's confusing, and I think people don't get lost enough. And I suppose that's sort of the anastrophes element as well.
Yes, I think, I mean, labyrinths are metaphor for life, so
Mm.
can't really escape it, can you?
Well, I think look, as we reach the end of our conversation, I wanted to give you space. There's a very loud motorbike. I think it's a motorbike.
Yeah, we went from very natural sounds to very human
Yeah.
sounds, but
Is there anything else you want to share or anything you want to talk about? If not, we can wrap it up.
I think thanking Rebecca and Justin for the More Than Human exhibition. I think it was one of the most important, crucial and kind of generative shows that were around and that I will probably work on. So yes, just that.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Christie. Thanks so much.
That's a wrap. Okay, we're